It was a big storm. It's the largest storm we've had in many, many years. I've heard people refer to the blizzard of 78. I've heard people refer to Nemo. I think that both of those storms were quite a while ago. We haven't seen this much snow back to back in quite a few years. So it's a challenge. It's a challenge, and the towns have worked heroically to clear streets and keep people safe.
That's Chip Riley, Emergency Preparedness Director of Barnstable County, which coordinated regional response to a blizzard of historic proportions that rolled through Cape Cod Sunday night, pummeled the region with hurricane-force winds throughout Monday, dumped 17 to 20 inches of heavy, wet snow, and knocked out power for more than 155,000 customers. People will no doubt be referring to this as the February 23rd blizzard for the next 20 years.
So the Cape sort of unofficially lives under the mantra that nobody's coming over the bridges to help us. And as a result, everybody started to work together.
As the snow piled up and the power system took a body slam that threw Cape Cod into the dark and cold for most of the week, a Cape-wide behind-the-scenes process kept people warm and fed while damage control, restoration, and recovery began.
On Cape Cod, or in Barnstable County, we have an organization called the Barnstable County Regional Emergency Planning Committee. 20 years ago, as we started this working group to work together collaboratively, very quickly we realized that it could be used for bigger and better things. What we do very well is working together. So through our office in the Emergency Preparedness Division, whenever we have a large-scale event or an anticipated event, we'll host coordination calls with all kinds of partners across the Cape. And again, that's all kinds of town departments, the hospitals, other healthcare providers, our community service partners. MEMA and DPH will embed directly with what we call the MAC, the Multi-Agency Coordination Center. And that is a miniature emergency operations center, in a sense, where we bring partners together to support communities. We have some small towns, especially we get towards the Outer Cape. And so whenever they have a need, they can come to us and we'll help facilitate that request or that resource request. Like we're seeing over this week, snow plows, chainsaw crews, health, nurse clinical support and staffing nurses. We help go get that. And if we can't find it locally, then we'll go up to the state. We've seen that today.
That might sound pretty basic and common sense, but as we all know, common sense isn't so common. And during a storm like the blizzard, the impact of this type of tested process was huge.
We try to get everybody together and swimming in the same direction, as I like to say. And that helps us respond better collaboratively. It's a much more efficient way of responding to things, and it keeps everybody alive.
According to NOAA and the National Weather Service airport data, Falmouth reached blizzard conditions at 5 a.m. Monday morning, Hyannis at 8:30 a.m., and Chatham at 9:25. On the Cape, winds gusted as high as 80 miles per hour. Trees fell, poles toppled, and the wind ripped wires every which way. Power substations froze over. More than 1,400 points of damage to the electrical system combined to create a winter nightmare. Even essential organizations like Cape Cod Hospital relied on generators to stay open.
Using this recent event as an example, we knew we were going to have a winter weather event. We started coordination calls once a day. I think the first one is at 10 o'clock in the morning on Thursday or Friday before the storm even hit, where everyone has an understanding of where they stand, what they need, how they're doing. Do they have any anticipated needs ahead of the storm? We talked to the committee, executive committee, about what we thought shelter needs would be. We talked to a lot of the communities up and down the Cape to see what they thought their shelter needs would be, and partnered with those towns to determine what would be the best course of action for opening shelters, what we thought the need was going to be.
With 70% to fully 100% of towns in the dark, shelters played an important role in this winter storm. At the peak, 5 regional shelters housed more than 400 people for as many as 3 nights. In addition, hundreds and hundreds of people visited dozens of warming and charging stations from Provincetown to Falmouth. The Family Table Collaborative, with assist from the CCRTA, delivered more than 11,000 meals to the shelters and warming stations over the course of the week.
Back 20 years ago, the American Red Cross used to staff all of the shelters on Cape. Most towns had 1 or 2, sometimes 3. So there were 30 some odd shelters for any particular event. And as they started to see a decline in volunteerism, they needed a better way to do it. So the regional shelter system was born. And we know what our demographic is. We have a very much older population here on the Cape. We're the oldest demographic in the state. And with that comes folks who have some additional needs. So we wanted to make sure we're conscious of that. Partnerships are everything here. The Cape Cod Regional Transit Authority immediately came to the plate. They started operating buses as soon as the roads were safe to do so. Even though they weren't opening full service, they supported our shelter operations. So they deployed buses to every shelter we had on the Cape, to almost every community. So it was a great way to get our most vulnerable population from the places they needed to be into shelters if it was necessary. That first day, they transported over 200 people.
With recovery fully in sight and power expected to be up and running by Friday night or Saturday morning, normalcy is slowly returning. And remember, spring is less than a month away. But should that classic New England March snowstorm still arrive, the MAC stands ready and waiting.
It's all about togetherness here on the Cape. It takes a village, as they like to say, and we work together very well.